Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome. We are for group 5 and we're gonna explaining about American literature, which is explaining about the history and the literature. First, we're gonna introduce ourselves. There is Laila Azara, Sera Amarat Rabbani, Nurlaili Fakiah, Muhammad Fauzan Shakir, and Pasca Widiwansari. Okay, so we will begin in the introduction with the history of United States is a long and fascinating story that goes back thousands of years. And long before Europeans arrived, the land was home to many Native American cultures. These groups, like the Iroquois in the Northeast, the Sioux in the Great Plains, and the Puebloans in the Southwest, with rich and complex societies with their own tradition, government, and ways of life. In the late in the late 104, 1040s, 140 or 100, European explorers like Christopher Columbus came to the Americas. Over time, the Spanish, French, and British set up colonies. The British colonies on the East Coast grew quickly and became very important. In the 1700s, the American colonies began to feel unhappy with British rule. This led to the American Revolution, and in 1766, the colonies declared their independence. After winning the war in 1783, they formed a new nation, the United States of America, with a constitution that creates a democratic government. And in the 1800s were a time of big change and growth. The United States expanded westward, doubling size with Louisiana, Turkish and gaining more land after the Mexican and American War. However, this period also saw a great conflict over slavery, which led to the Civil War in the 1860s. The North won and slavery was ended, but the nation faced a tough period of rebuilding. In the late 1800 and early 1900s, brought industrialization, which many people moved into cities and made technology changing everyday life. The US became a world power, especially after taking part in World War One and World War Two. The victory of World War Two helped make the US a leader on the global stage. The mid in the middle of 1900 saw major social change, including the civil rights movement, which fought against racial segregation and discrimination. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. worked for equality and justice. And now, today, the United States is a diverse and dynamic country, known for its technological advancements, cultural influences, and democratic ideals. Its history is a rich history of many stories, reflecting both struggle and achievement that have shaped the nation that we know today. And in the early history and Native American cultures. Before European contact, the Americans were inhabited by diverse Native American cultures, including the Iroquois in the Northeast, the Cheyenne Great Plains, the Pueblos in Southwest, and many others. This culture has its tradition, advanced agricultural practice, and compact societies. This is all already I explained before. And next, will be presented by my friend.
Okay, for European exploration and colonization, European exploration and colonization greatly influenced American literature by shaping its themes and stories. Early accounts from explorers like Christopher Columbus and John Smith described the New World as a place of wonder and opportunity, inspiring later writers to explore themes of adventure and discovery. Colonization, both clashes between different cultures and power struggles, which became central themes in American literature. Stories about Native American tribes and the relationship between settlers and their new lands reflected this conflict. Writers also explored questions of identity, belonging, and justice, such as in narratives about captivity and later in novels like Moby Dick by Herman Melville and Beloved by Toni Morrison, which tackled issues of slavery and its impact. European exploration and colonization provided a rich background for American authors to explore themes of conquest, conflict, and cultural exchange that continue to influence literature today. For the in 1492, Christopher Columbus' arrival in the Caribbean marked the beginning of European exploration and colonization, and in 1607, Jamestown, Virginia was established as the first permanent English settlement. In 1620, the Pilgrims founded Plymouth Colony in Massachusetts, followed by the Puritans in Massachusetts by colony. Next, next, please. Next is colonial America. Colonial America refers to the time from the late 16th century to the 18th century when European countries, mainly England, set up settlements along the eastern coast of what is now the United States. These colonies had different economies. The northern colonies focused on trade and make goods, while the southern colonies relied on farming and used and served people for labor. Colonial society was a mix of European settlers, Native Americans, and enslaved Africans, leading to complex social interactions and cultural exchanges. During this time, colonial governments developed, often influenced by democratic ideas, which later helped shape the American Revolution and the creation of the United States. Next, next is road to independence. The road to independence in American literature shows the growing desire for freedom and self-rule among the American colonists in the 18th century. Important works like Thomas Paine's Competence, which argued for breaking away from British control, and the Declaration of Independence, mainly version by Thomas Jefferson, explained the colonized complaints and their right to govern themselves. These writings, along with speeches, pamphlets, and essays from leaders like Benjamin Franklin and Patrick Henry, were key in shaping public opinion and gaining support for the revolutionary cause. This eventually led to the American Revolution and the creation of the United States as an independent country. For the in 1763 until 1775, growing tensions between the colonized and Britain, largely due to taxation without representation and other grievances, led to the American Revolution. And in the 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted on July 4th. And in the 1783, the Treaty of Paris ended the Revolutionary War, recognizing American independence. Next. Next is forming a new nation. The theme of forming a new nation in American literature looks at the struggles, dreams, and experiences of early American settlers as they created a new identity separate from Europe. This literature often shows the hopes and challenges of building a democratic society, dealing with issues like freedom, independence, and the meeting of different cultures. Writers like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, and Washington Irving highlight the spirit of innovation, self-reliance, and the search for a unique American character capturing the essence of the nation being born. And in the 70 and 87, the U.S. Constitution was drafted, establishing the framework of the federal government. And in the 17 and 89, George Washington became the first president of the United States. Okay, from next explanation will be explained by my friend.
Okay, so the next slide is 19th century expansion and conflict. In 1803, the United States bought a huge amount of land from France. This doubled the size of the country almost overnight. And in 1820 until 1860, during these times, Americans believed it was their destiny to expand westward across North America. This led to settlers moving into new territories, often taking land from Native American tribes who already lived there. And in 1861 until 1865, the Civil War, this was a war between the northern states and the southern states of the United States. The main issues were states' rights and slavery. The northern states wanted to keep the country together, the Union, and eventually they won. Slavery was abolished throughout the country with the passing of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The next slide, please. Next slide is reconstruction and industrialization. In 1865 until 1877 is the reconstruction. After the Civil War ended in 1865, the United States faced the challenge of rebuilding the southern states and bringing the country back together. This period was called Reconstruction. The goal was to help the South recover and to give right to formerly enslaved people, known as freed slaves. Efforts were made to integrate freed slaves into society by giving them citizenship and voting rights. And late 19th century is the industrialization. During the late 18th, the United States experienced rapid industrialization. This means that more and more factories were built and machines were used to make goods. This transformed the economy from one based largely on farming to one based on industry and manufacturing. Cities grew rapidly as people moved from farms to work factories. This period also saw a lot of immigration, with many people coming to the United States from other countries to find jobs and build a new life. The next slide, please. 20th century, the wars and prosperity. In 1914 until 1918, the World War I. From 1914 to 1918, the United States took part in World War I. This was a global conflict involving many countries. The U.S. joined to support its allies and protect its interests. It was a significant moment in American history, marking its emergence as a world power. In 1920s, the economic boom and Great Depression. In the 1830s, the United States experienced a time of economic prosperity, often called a boom. People had more money and business were doing well. However, this was followed by the Great Depression starting in 1929, And it was a time of severe economic hardship when many people lost their jobs and home. And in 1939 until 1945, it's a World War II. The United States played a crucial role in World War II. It fought against countries that pose a threat to freedom and democracy. The US became a global superpower after the war because of its strong economy and military power. And in 1947 until 1991, the Cold War era, it is after a World War II, and there was a period called the Cold War. It was a time of tension and rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, a community country. Even though there was a direct fighting between them, there was a lot of competition in politics, technology, and culture. This era saw many important development and changes in the world. Next slide, please. Okay, the next is contemporary America. In 1960, during the 1960s, the civil rights movement in the United States aimed to end racial segregation and discrimination against African Americans. This period saw significant social changes, including new laws that guaranteed equal rights and opportunities for all people, regardless of their race. And in 1970s until 1990s, uh, America experienced many changes. Politically, there were movements for equal rights for women and other minorities. Socially, attitudes toward diversity and equality continued to evolve, and technologically, the rise of the internet revolutionized communication and how people access information. And in 21st century, the key events and ongoing issues. In the 21st century, America faced several defining events and ongoing challenges. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks profoundly impacted the nation and led to changes in security and foreign policy. The Great Recession starting in 2008 caused economic hardship for many Americans. Ongoing debates over healthcare, immigration policies, and climate change continue to shape the country's direction and future. For the next slide, will be explained by my friend. Thank you.
Okay, American literature. American literature reflects the diversity, story, and culture of the nations. So American literature is a rich and complex reflection of the multicultural American experience with a literary heritage that continues to develop and adapt to changes in time and society. Next, please. Colonial and early national period, 1620 until 1830. Annie Bradstreet, the first published American poet, Benjamin Franklin, known for his autobiography, and for Richard Almanac. So the early colonial and national period, 1630 until 1813, was a period of formation of American literary identity, starting with the arrival of European settlers until the era of Romanticism. Then famous for her poem, The Ten Most lately sprung up in America in 1630. This made her the first woman in America to have her work published. The most famous autobiographical work in the world, writing in chapters throughout his life. This autobiography provides them insight into Franklin's principles of hard work, self-education, and moral values. Then Richard Almanac was a series annual publication containing calendars, weather forecasts, poetry, and proverbs. Next, please. Romanticism and Transcendentalism, 1830 until 1865. Ralph Waldo Emerson, transcendentalist thinker. Henry David Thoreau, Thoreau, known for Weldon and civil the disobedience. Edgar Allan Poe, master of Gothic and detective fiction, become an important period in American literary history in which literary works began to explore themes of individualism, nature, and the search for spiritual meaning. Ralph Waldo Emerson was a major thinker of the transcendentalism movement, a philosophical and literary movement that imposes the importance of individualism, nature, and spirituality. Henry David is famous for Walden, which is a reflection of the 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days he spent living in a cabin near Walden Pool. The book explores themes of simplicity, reliance, and contemplation of nature. Civil rebellion is an important text that supports non-violent resistance against a government that is considered unjust. Edgar Allan is known for his work, namely Gothic fiction, which means he is a master of horror stories. For example, The Fall of the House of User. Then detective fiction with the story The Mother in the Rue Morgue, 1841, which introduced the detective character C. Auguste Dupin. This work of the way for the detective genre which was later popularized and by the writer. Next, please. Realism and Naturalism, 1865 until 1914. Mark Twain, author of the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Henry James, known for complex narrative like The Portrait of a Lady. So realism and naturalism is a period in American literature characterized by a focus on real life, realistic detail, and social analysis. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. This novel is often called one of the greatest work in American literature. The book is not for its realistic depiction of life in the Southern United States and its critique of freezing and racism. Henry James is known for complex narrative such as Portrait of a Lady. So this novel tells the story of Sabel Arthur, a young American woman who inherits a large fortune and then moved to Europe. This work is not but for its in-depth characterization and incisive psychological analysis. The next slide will be explained by my friend.
Belum di unmute,
Excuse
belum
me,
di unmute.
pardon.
I'm sorry. Okay, so for the next era is the modernism, which happens from 1914 until 1945. And there are three features that we put in here. The first one is F. Scott Fitzgerald, the second one Ernest Hemingway, and the last one is William Faulkner. For the Scott Fitzgerald, he's known for the Great Gatsby. Then the contribution of him is capture the disillusionment and moral ambiguity of the Jazz Age. His works often explore themes of the decadence, idealism, resistance to change, and social upheaval. And for the Hemingway, he is known for the Sun Also Rises and A Farewell to Arms. His contribution is like his terse prose style and the concept of the iceberg cherry. And the last one is for the William Faulkner. He's known for the sound and the fury, and his contribution work is marked by his complex narrative structures, including stream of consciousness and his deep exploration of the human sky and life. And his innovative techniques and reach layered storytelling had a significant impact on the modernist literature. Next, next slide, please. Okay, so for the last era is postmodernism, which happened in 1945 until now, the present. So there are also three figures that we put in here. The first one is Jack Kerouac, Toni Morrison, and also Don DeLillo. For the Jack Kerouac, he's known for On the Road, and the contribution of him is a leading figure of the Beat generation, a group for their rejection of traditional values, exploration of American culture. The next one is Toni Morrison. He's known for Beloved. The contribution of him is a Nobel Prize winner, is of African American identity and history. And the last one is Don DeLillo. He's known for White Nose, and the contribution of him is characterized by its incisive examination of contemporary American life, particularly the effect of media satirization, consumer culture, and also the society. The White Nose explore the impact of technology and environmental catastrophes on human consciousness and behavior. All right, so the conclusion of our discussion is the story of the United States is a long and variety story, beginning with the Native American cultures, followed by European colonization, and the creation of a new nation. The country grew through times expansion, conflict with the Civil War, and also the significant change such as the abolition of slavery. The 20th century saw American becoming a global power, involving in two world wars. The first one is the Great Depression, and also the last one is the Cold War. And today, the U.S. continues to face new challenges and opportunities. And also, the American literature has developed alongside with the history, reflecting the experiences and also the values of different times. Early writers like Annie Bradstreet and also Benjamin Franklin set the stage, followed by figures like Ralph Waldo Emerson and also Mark Twain that you already heard from what my friends already explained. Modern authors like F. Fitzgerald and also Toni Morrison, like what I said before, have captured the spirit of their times in their works. This literature provides a window into the diverse and involving American story. Okay, so I think that's all from our discussion and also our presentations. We are sorry if there are some mistakes or misunderstanding from our presentations. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.